Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Well, you know what? Yesterday was a continuation of the weekend, a hate day. But things are kind of turning around now. And because the left loves to sit there and do their negative spew all over the place, even if it's not true, which 99.9% is not true.
Even though that they're trying desperately to sweep it aside, the Epstein case, Bill, the story about the Epstein files, it's not going away. There are talk shows on the cable news channels that are leading their shows off with stories about the Epstein files. So I don't know whether President Trump is going to have to revisit this and correct this, because I think it was a mistake. The way they made it, they summarily dismissed it in that press conference in the cabinet room a few days ago. That was a mistake. They did it. They miscalculated how the people felt about that story and how important it was to a lot of their followers, and it lit a firestorm. So, but you found an interesting piece of audio.
The audio kind of sets it straight, because we are all going, oh, there's a list, there's this and there's that. There is a redacted list, but it's not his list. It is from witnesses.
Client list, there never has been a client list. A client list suggests that Jeffrey Epstein made a list of people to whom he trafficked women. What there is a redacted FBI affidavit from accusers. There are several of them. From accusers that accuse Jeffrey, that accuse various people of having improper sex. And that has been redacted. The names of the people accused have been blacked out. Now, of course, because I was the lawyer and I did all the investigations, I know who all these people are. I could figure out, based on everything that I saw, who Mr. X is, Mr. Y is, and Mr. Z. I can tell you right now, none of them are public figures who are currently in office. Some of them were previously in office. Some of them are dead. But there is no client list. And the redactions could be undone if you go to court. So many of the things that are being suppressed by two judges in Manhattan. And they're doing it largely to protect the alleged accusers, who are, in the view of the judges, victims, even though we don't know what their actual status is. But the judges have issued orders, which is why I can't disclose things I'd love to disclose, saying that you can't disclose this information. But Pam Bondi and the Justice Department and Donald Trump are not responsible for that. I don't know of any information that they could disclose that they haven't disclosed. Now, maybe there is some, but I'm simply not aware of it. And so I think it's important to place the blame where the blame deserves to be placed. The vast majority of people who are in the files, and I know them all, I've seen all the names, the vast majority of them have already been disclosed. They're in articles all over the world. They're in books that have been written. So if we got everything, you would be shocked how few names are there that haven't already been disclosed. The media hasn't, by the way, done a good enough job in finding the people who have been disclosed in the public record.
That's Alan Dershowitz, and our apologies for the lower level, but he was supposedly a guy who visited the island on business, and initially they said, well, there was some connection, and maybe he had some kind of a dalliance. Well, apparently people down there said, no, that's wrong. He never did that. He was totally above board when he visited. So, that's one of the situations where, he's being found guilty with that broad brush that we talk about. Anybody who just shows up on the island, is, a bad guy, I guess. But the thing that gets me about that is I heard him just a few days ago on another channel say he implied there was a list. I think he was on Fox. No, maybe it was on Newsmax. But he implied it was there was a list, and he knew about it. Somewhere, I think, between the time he said that and the time he recorded this audio with Cuomo, it sounds like he's kind of reversed himself. Like, oh, maybe that's not a good thing to say. Maybe I shouldn't be going after that list piece. I may even have the audio somewhere, and if I do, I'll play it. But he said something along the lines of, I have a list and I think it should come out. And I thought, whoa. So this is like a 180, Bill. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think the guy is creditable. So number one, I would trust what he says. He says he believes he knows who X, Y, and Z are. So just trying to sift through everything, it could be that he has a list of what he thinks alone. But what he did do, probably in that audio, is clear up something that the one thing I would say about Trump and Pam Bondi, they didn't know how to properly articulate it, and maybe he didn't either before, because he sure as heck did there. That's specifies that no, they don't have a list. What we have are people coming forward with testimony and having to be redacted because you have to protect certain innocent people. What I see is a big quagmire, a big mess that has to be unraveled. And everybody's wanting, because we expect answers, because we kind of got the narrative that we've got it all, we got the answers. They might have it all, but it's like going fishing. And you cast that line out, and all of a sudden you get this big tangled mess, and you're going, do you cut the line, or do you, you cut that line, you cut a lot of stuff loose, or do you sit there and unravel it?
I'm not sure, Bill, whether this is the cut we're looking for, but I did find this. It's Dershowitz talking about the list, and another cut that I have. I think it's fairly recently. Listen.
This is not an opinion. This is a fact. I have seen, remember, I was accused falsely, and the Epstein, and ultimately I was completely cleared. The woman admitted that she may have mistook me for somebody else and withdrew all of her lawsuits. And so from day one, from the day I was accused, I said I want every document out, because I knew every document would prove I was innocent. So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed. And they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them. But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong.
Just out of curiosity, without names, are these politicians, business leaders, both?
They're everything. And let me tell you, a lot of them are, at least one of them is somebody who was accused. Others are accusers. And the judges have said, if somebody calls themselves a victim, we're not going to give any information about them. But they may not be victims. They may be perpetrators. So we don't have information about false accusers. And we know there have been many false accusers who have accused innocent people for money. And those records are being deliberately, willfully suppressed. And they shouldn't be suppressed. If the accusation is allowed out, so should the material that diminishes the credibility of the accuser. We want total transparency on this. Every single document, no redaction. That's what I've said from day one. I waive any of my rights of privacy. Anything there is about me, I'm happy, because it will be exculpatory, because I know I haven't touched a woman other than my wife from the day I met Jeffrey Epstein. I don't even hug people. But I was falsely accused, and I was able to prove it, and I was able to prove it through documents, and I want other people to be able to disprove false accusations through documents, but these documents are being suppressed and withheld.
That's the cut I was looking for. That's it. That's the one where he did it about a week ago. So between that one and the cut you heard just a few seconds ago, the first cut, there seems to be a disagreement.
Well, I don't think so, because he did say, he did refer to this one that there is, the testimony.
Well, he says he's seen the names. Maybe there's no physical list. I don't know.
Well, that's what he's saying, and I kind of got that there, too. He knows who X, Y, and Z is. He also knows that there was a list that was put out there, and that's the one that you can readily get on the internet, and everyone goes, well, see, there's a list. That was a list put together by somebody else, based on hearsay accusations and whatnot. However it is, some true, some not. Like I believe Bill Clinton is probably the guy referred to that Oh, yeah, there are former politicians, even though Clinton goes, well, I was never there, because that redacted testimony that's sitting there is right now protecting him and innocent people. And that's what they got to be careful of. And there are people out there accused that are not. That's what he said in that first piece of audio you did. There are people that are accused that have nothing to do with this.
Right.
You know?
I think he is. I think he's a little nervous about being drawn into this whole Epstein thing again. I think between the time he did the cut you just heard and the cut that you heard at the start of the program, he must have rethought his how he's positioning himself. I think he's trying to maybe get away from the list thing. He realizes that by Trump closing the door on the case, that's actually a good thing for him, for Dershowitz. Whether he was there for any bad reason or not, he still was there. The other thing is this. I mean, he was, I don't know if you remember this, he was arrested, I think, in Miami. I'm talking about Epstein. And he was tried down there, and he somehow got off. And when he got off, he went back to New York, and they had a big party for Epstein. I want to say this is like 2005 or something like this, 2006. One of the people who was there was George Stephanopoulos. Now, if you wanted to use that broad brush again, you would you could imply there was something nefarious going on there. But Stephanopoulos, I believe, came out and said, "Hey, I just went there because I knew the guy, and I was invited to the party, but I wasn't invited there to do anything, to get involved with anything sexual or anything that was against the law." So, and you have to take his word for it because nothing ever came of it. But this guy Epstein was here's what we know: he was a bad guy. He was a vile guy. He abused young women, underage young women. And did he kill himself? I think there's a lot of questions there. I think this is what probably is bothering Bongino. Bongino, it looked, when I saw him say during that interview a few weeks ago, I guess it was 3 months ago now, where he said he committed suicide. Bongino said it. When he said it, it looked to me like it was hurting Bongino to say it, like he was almost forced to say it. He committed suicide. It wasn't something that he jumped out with. Well, we found he committed suicide. We got the facts. It wasn't something that was some kind of a bad thing where he was murdered. It was suicide. But he didn't say it. It pained him to say it. And I thought, that he's not saying that with conviction. It's almost as if someone said, you got to go into that press conference, Dan. You got to sing from our music sheet, and whether you like it or not.
Well, the bricks were stacked the way they were. The cards are laid out the way that they are. I would say that first interview we did really belongs after this. And the fact that I think there's an assumed list. There was a list put together from, redactions or what people thought and put together. I just think that we have, there's a little bit of miscommunication and a lot of assumption here, and this is blown up to be a big mess.
How long has he been dead, Bill?
Well, I was going to say, didn't he die during Trump's first?
He died in 2019. That's 6 years ago.
Right.
A lot of people have probably touched whatever evidence that was there.
Exactly.
So the chain of custody is just about impossible to find. Go ahead.
Trump even admits when he was in the first time, he didn't know who all the players were, and he didn't know who to trust and who not to trust. Epstein was probably the last thing on his mind during that time because he was worried about other things, and he did a great job at what he was doing, with, the Democratic noose around his neck or leash that they wanted to put on him all the time, and fighting all the impeachment process because they wanted to maintain control. Why was it so important to maintain control? Why is it so important now? And then when he was out, you had Joe Robinette Biden or whoever was really running the White House doing things. You know, did Epstein commit suicide? I don't think so, but I think that things were changed and manipulated enough. Yeah, sure he did. He committed suicide, all right, because that's the narrative you got to go with. And I'm saying it like I would say it. Oh, yeah, he committed suicide, all right.
But
Because,
I think they could have handled it differently. I do think.
well,
I think that seriously, I think the American people would have understood if he said, "Look, here's what we've found out: that the evidence has been handled by multiple people throughout the past 6 years, and there have been opportunities to manipulate the evidence. That being said, it is impossible for us." Using the evidence that we have now to determine whether he committed suicide or not. We can't do it. So we're being upfront with our followers. You have to understand that we can't give you a solid determination on whether he killed himself or not. That's what I would say.
well, and that was probably a better answer. I think they wanted to put the brakes on the story until that they could get the facts right. Was that the right thing or the right way to do it? I don't know that there was a wrong or right, because the one thing I know about the left, they're going to sit there and do what they do, and they'll take this and use it like it's a festering sore. Whoever's in the office, it's a festering sore that they inherit, and the Democrats have got their thumb in it and they're twisting, and they got to twist it because, like Dershowitz said, there are people not currently in office, but previously in office. Well, that doesn't leave you a lot of options. Bush, Clinton, I think of Bohemian Grove. I think of, all kinds of twisted blanks that have, a history of stuff that if you really knew what they were, you would have to go throw up in a bucket, because it is so disgusting what a lot of our leaders and leaders all over the world are.
Yeah.
We take the worst people in life and put them on a pedestal.
Can you ever explain to me what the hell? I mean, I've seen the video, I've heard the stories, but what the hell is Bohemian Grove really all about? What do you think? For people who don't know, I think it's once a year.
Well,
they meet once a year. Is it once a year, Bill?
It's like a club. Do what?
Is it once a year that they meet?
Yeah, it's once a year. It's out close to San Francisco, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
It's very secure. The wives kind of have to go off and do their own little thing. It's a men's club, and ladies ought to be ticked about that.
And they go for a weekend, don't they?
Yeah, maybe it's a little longer. They dress up. They have rituals. They have, if you ever want to, Google it, because Jones.
Alex Jones. Yeah.
Alex Jones, that was his kind of breakout from regular media to, get into the dark side of the news. And, he broke in, got that secret video.
Well, I guess they have a stream that goes through the area where they have their camp. And I guess he and someone else, a cameraman, they actually kind of floated down this stream in the dark and took video. And in this Bohemian Grove, I want you to think about this, folks. They have this maybe 30-foot high carved owl that they appear to worship. They have a campfire around it. They chant around it. And you're saying, well, who are these people that go? Well, this is gonna make you feel a little weird, but I think was it one of the Bushes went? I'm not sure whether it was George the father or George the son, but I also believe that Ronald Reagan went to it.
Ronald Reagan, I was just going to say, he went there. And what kind of really gets me, or the thought that I had, because these are people that can do evil and dark things, and we always talk about a deep state, and you wonder why somebody did whatever it is they did. And I'm going, okay, if I were an underlord, we'll call the deep state an underlord, and I wanted someone loyal to me, I would do like a fraternity that sits there, and there's a ritual, an indoctrination. And once, you cut your palm and you
like a blood
share
brother
blood,
type thing. Yeah.
you're a blood brother, and you do things together. Now we are bonded, and we do well together. We go down together, and you're bonded to this. And if we say, "Hey,
Well,
you've got to do this,"
that's the
you
Skull
better
and
do it.
Bones at Yale University.
Exactly.
The Skull and Bones Society is a. Think about this, friends. Think about this. They have a building with no windows. It's a stone building with no windows. It's locked. Only members can go in. And when you go in, only members are truly privy to what goes on inside. We've heard the stories, and they're pretty sick. But here's what we do know, that the members of that society stay with each other, support each other throughout the rest of their careers.
And they all get to positions of prominence because that being in it. How important is money and power important to you? If it's the number one thing on your list, forget about God. You can use God as a tool to get to where you want, but you are worshiping a different God.
Yeah, a false God. Yes.
A false God.
Yep.
And that is what you're doing. And there are people from all leaders from all over the world that come to this thing. And that's just the way it's been.
And so you have to ask yourself, what the hell truly is going on in our world? What the hell is going on? Are we being manipulated? Are we just puppets on the strings of all these globalist people who are doing nothing more than trying to benefit themselves?
Now, here's what I would ask you.
Before you do that, hold that thought.
Okay.
Because we got to break for a commercial before it's too late. A reminder, like and share our program. And also, if you want to contact us, do so at mail@jimandbill.com. And you had something you wanted to add, Bill?
Oh, yeah. When we know that people listen on platforms all over the place. So, we might say Spotify, Podbean,
Amazon,
there's Bluehost, whatever it is.
Sure.
Some of them have a little place where you can comment on the show. And basically, that's give us a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 star. Please, I'm not going to tell you what star to give us.
I am. Give us a 4-star.
No, I want a 5-star.
Okay, that's good too.
Yeah, give us 5-star. But you know what? Do what you think, and that's what we'd appreciate. I know that people don't always make it all the way through the whole show, but pretty much the show is consistent all the way through. So if you like the front, you're going to like the back of the show. That doesn't sound right, but either way.
If you would give a 5-star to your Uber driver, you can do it to us, right? Sure.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
You know what? We're not asking for tips. We're just asking for your approval, and your name's not even on it. It's just, I highly recommend this show.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. I don't know if you heard this or not, but with all the craziness going on, we talked, by the way, about the Bohemian Grove and all that nonsense. And we talked about the Epstein files and who's connected and stuff. And I do think, if you take a deep breath, folks, just take a deep breath. And you stop for a second, you realize how important is the Epstein thing right now. It is important because there's a lot of victims, a lot of pedophiles seem to be getting away with what they did, and that's wrong. They should be brought to justice. But I think there's stuff out there that's a heck of a lot bigger going on right now that we got to focus on. We can't take our eye off the ball.
Right. I do want to say one thing we teased, that is, and I was just going to say, I wonder how many people have gone through the initiation of the Skull and Bones or whatever that kind of wanted to get into the club and all of a sudden said, no, I don't want to be a part of this. Whatever happened to them? Because sometimes those kind of organizations, you get your foot in the door, you can't leave. Something bad might happen
that's
to
a
you.
script for a movie.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I mean, from what I can tell, Trump, he's not, according to Dershowitz, not on these Epstein things that, the left likes to imply. Could it be that he has never been a member of this club, didn't want to be, but he's come to power, and you can't do that. You're not a member of the club.
Right. Well, he didn't go to Yale, so He went to
No, he didn't.
Wharton Business School, I believe.
Yeah,
But
he's common.
yes, but it's interesting. These people do stick together throughout life. I could tell you personal stories about that Skull and Bones, but that's for another time. I've met people who I think have been members. Let me put it to you that way. But I wanted to point out something which is getting minimal amount of exposure in the news, but it's a big story, and it's a worrisome story too. The mullahs have issued a $40 million hit on President Trump.
Yeah.
They have said, we'll give you $40 million, whoever hits the President of the United States. Now, they asked Trump about it in one of his impromptu press conferences yesterday, and he said essentially, yeah, well, I've left standing orders. If they do that, if they're successful, they're to be wiped off the face of the earth or something like that, obliterated.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. If you're one of those maybe mercenaries out there, $40 million bounty, I'm in. Let me just put it this way. Let's say that you're in and you're successful. You'll never see the light of day to get the $40 million because you will be gone before the sun rises the next day, and that money will never get to you.
Well, you have to ask
yourself.
yourself.
People that put out the hit knows that.
How do you collect it?
Good luck.
Just stop for a second. How do you collect it? You commit this heinous act. Now, how do you go and get the money? How do you all of a sudden become $40 million richer incognito, if you know what I'm saying? Your days are numbered. There's no way of getting around it. Even if they gave you the $40 million, you won't have any time to spend it. And so, this is the kind of nonsense, but it's out there. We just had about a week and a half ago the Grand Ayatollah issue a fatwa against President Trump, which is essentially a hit. They're all getting in the act right now. And the Secret Service, by the way, based upon the information the GAO issued a few days ago, the Secret Service, I hope they have their act together, because they sure didn't a year ago. They were confused and screwed up a year ago big time, and I hope that they have taken this past year to retune their system, because it was not working properly. I'm talking about what happened in Butler. To think they would send a drone up there and the guy didn't know how to work it. Hello, you're the Secret Service. It should be your one job.
Yeah, the button that goes, it slides up or down, on, off. That would be the first clue. But, these guys didn't know. They brought somebody in that wasn't trained. And by the way, if he wasn't trained, that means he wasn't licensed to run that drone. If you're going to fly a drone over a crowd, you need to be commercially licensed like a pilot. And there is a course that you have to take. And so you don't know any FAA law. You don't know anything. And obviously, you don't know how to run that drone or do anything. So what kind of clown show was the FBI, the Secret Service, running at that time?
And by the way, Thomas Matthew Crooks flew a drone 3 hours before the gunfire over that site. He flew his own drone to get perspective as to where everything was, and I would imagine where the best place to set up his sniper's nest. This guy was there walking around. They have video of it. You can see him when there was a crowd there already. It's one scene where Thomas Matthew Crooks is walking right in the middle of the crowd, and they have it on videotape. This guy was walking around. He didn't seem interested at all in the actual event. He wasn't there to hear Trump. He was there to set up. He was a guy with a mission. And I'll never forget seeing the video. I'm sure all of our listeners have seen it too, where there are people right over by that building who are screaming, there's a guy on the roof with the gun, and nobody did a thing, Bill.
Well, I mean, the crowd was into it. They were trying to help out and alert. And the fact that nobody paid attention is really perturbing to me. But you know what? There's a lot of, I was thinking yesterday, I see all the negative news and they're talking about this and that. But, when you see the real polls, like people that approve of Trump and what he's doing on the border, I saw a news story yesterday saying, Republicans are losing faith in Trump, and now they're all for open borders. No, that's not true at all. As a matter of fact, it's like 80% are happy with what he's doing, which means if you're saying 80% of the people interviewed are happy, well, that means some Democrats are happy with them too there. So take your polls and stick them where the sun don't shine, because you're giving a false story. You're making this stuff
they're
up.
trying to get people who believe in
They're
Trump
trying to divide.
to think again about who they believe in. They're trying to divide us, exactly.
And they're trying to use, look, I think, back to what we talked about earlier, I think the Epstein files, I think something is going to blow up. What's her name? Ghislaine Maxwell. She is apparently...
Ghislaine, Maxwell.
She's ready to testify before Congress. Now, they say, she's got a list. Well, what she has is a memory. There's, and I go by what Alan Dershowitz basically said in the two pieces of audio. There are people that have more witness. Some are good, some are bad. But she wants to protect her Lily whatever derriere too. But I wouldn't be surprised if she goes, I'm going to testify. If there's somebody that she might expose, I wouldn't feel healthy, one way or the other if I were.
According to the Daily Mail, Maxwell has not been offered a plea deal, nor has she been contacted by any U.S. officials about providing testimony.
Mm-hmm.
I find that to be interesting. It's almost like they're avoiding her. She may be the only person who has honest and true answers as to what went on, and it's like she's isolated. And I would question. I wouldn't be surprised if one day you hear that she became despondent and committed suicide.
Yeah.
And it was just a coincidence.
There was a guy, Elijah Schaefer, that did a video. I think it was out last night that says that she is about to reveal, or she's going to reveal the secrets. See, I don't know. I don't think they're going to tip their hat about anything they're going to do with or not do with her. But no matter what, the fact that her name is out there, and maybe this is the reason, she might hold answers. So let's put her name out there so they go, it's time to maybe give her a physical exam, and she's not doing too well.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Okay. We could talk forever about this Epstein case.
No,
but
let's move on to, there's other stories.
The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to proceed with plans to dismantle the Department of Education, which it shouldn't have even gone to the Supreme Court. It should have been a decision that was, it came from the executive branch. Usually, the executive branch has decisions. Of course, the Democrats are saying that it was a cabinet level branch of government that was started over 50 years ago, and he's summarily dismantling it. Well, yeah. It was actually put together, and it maybe never should have been put together, and it is underperformed from the beginning. It has created standards that they've never been able to enforce. We have dumbed down our kids. Kids today in our school systems have more computers and more toys, but they can't read. They can't write. They don't even teach the simple little things. This sounds crazy, folks. I know you're going to... When I was a kid, they taught me it was called Palmer penmanship. It was cursive writing.
Yeah.
Cursive writing. They don't teach kids how to write in cursive anymore. Oh, they don't need it. They don't need cursive writing. They got their laptops, and they can, as long as they can type into their cell phone. No. They should always have the basics. The basics are to be able to sign their signature in cursive.
Well, the other thing they're doing, is with the education of kids, I mean, you remember Mr. Rogers, boys are boys from the beginning and girls are girls. But
Well, Bill, that's very nice of you to say that, but
Boys are boys from the beginning.
see,
If you were born a boy, you stay a boy.
absolutely.
Girls are girls right from the start.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
were born a girl, you stay a girl and grow
Got
up
that
to
right.
be a lady. Only girls can be the mummies. Only boys can be the daddies.
of course that was on PBS. You would think that they would play that every day, right? No.
No. But you know what they're teaching kids now in school?
You can be whatever you want to be.
You're non-binary, so you can be a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
It is your choice, whatever you want to in your mind. You can be a girl, but want to play like the boys and be with the boys. You can become a boy because that's what you want, and that is because you're non-binary. You can make that choice yourself. And we have a doctor standing by to cannibalize your body.
There used to be a
and
rock song
change you.
years ago called "Are You a Boy or Are You a Girl?"
Mm,
And then, of course, there was Lola. Remember the song Lola?
yeah.
That had a line in girls will be boys and boys will be girls. It's a mixed up, muddled up, shook up world, and so is Lola. Anyway,
Yeah, she drank Coca-Cola, yeah.
yes. Anyway, so the Supreme Court has allowed Trump to continue taking the education department apart.
Yeah.
By the way, essentially, if I remember correctly, Trump is sending that responsibility back to the states. The states will take care of the educational systems in their states. And as well, they should. People who are closest to the problem, people who are closest to the kids, should be the people who are making decisions for those kids, and not some bureaucrat in D.C. Do you see where Biden's lawyers have? Biden has a new personal lawyer based upon all that's going down with the auto pen. Have you seen that? He has a new lawyer.
I didn't know that. I know that with the auto pen, there was something about Fauci because Biden didn't sign it, and I don't think he had a clue as to who did authorize
Well,
the
he
auto
came
pen.
out yesterday and he said, I signed all 9,000 9,000
Yeah.
executive orders, right? From and they were done with the auto pen, but he signed them. He was aware of them all. You know, then he can't
9,000.
find his coat, but he'll tell you that he was aware of every single thing that happened.
How
in
long
that
does
office.
it take to sign a signature? 5, 10, 9 seconds?
About
Something like that?
Yeah.
I would do the math on that. 9,000 times, 9
He'd
seconds.
still be signing, Bill. The way
Yeah.
the guy is infirmed. He's slowed down big time. By the way, someone will tell you, a lot of President Trump will tell you that Joe Biden, the one who was in Congress, was 180 degrees from the Joe Biden who was the president.
Exactly.
I'm talking
He's
about his
not the
political
same guy.
his political stances. You know what he believed in a solid border. He was totally 180 from the positions that he took. And I just saw another story this morning, Bill. I don't know if you saw it, but there is a story going around that Obama visited the White House 340 times last year.
I believe that.
In secret, supposedly. He like almost every day Obama was sneaking into the White House. Who was the president?
Well, Obama said he wanted to run another term in his pajamas. I guess he had to slip on some jeans or at least a suit, casual suit, to go over and visit the White House. And I'm sure there's a secret way into it and a secret way out.
Well, and what says to me is the Washington news media stinks. They don't really do any deep dive investigations. They all sit around, pat each other on the back, and cheer for the same guy, as opposed to doing investigative journalism. If that story's true, if Obama visited the White House 340 times, and he used the pseudonym on the log when he signed in, Joe Time. Joe Time.
Joe Time, yeah, because he's spending time with Joe. Yeah,
Yep.
Joe Time.
He didn't. He didn't put his name in
Joe
the log
Mama.
book. He didn't.
Yeah.
He signed it Joe Time and walked in. So,
But one bad thing is he signed Joe Time, right?
yeah.
Somebody ought to sit there and get one of the handwriting analysis people to take a look at that signature and compare it to Obama. And then you can sit there, and well, I'm sure they've done that. And, then you could go back and say, what were you doing there? Because now we got proof positive.
Well, I think what you just hit at the very end there, I think that they wouldn't come out and make that kind of a statement, that he visited 340 times last year if they hadn't already checked his penmanship.
So why isn't anybody going, Mr. Obama?
The media doesn't want to
explain what.
They don't want the story, Bill.
Well, why not?
Because the media's on Obama's side. The media's on Biden's side.
Then maybe Project Veritas ought to get involved in this. I mean, they set up one of the Secret Service person where they sat there and one of the ladies sat there and said, "Yeah, I need to get into the White House and." Boy, I really hate Trump. And the guy sat there and said, "Oh yeah, he's doing some wacky stuff. Hey, you know what? Don't have to bet you. Come on in and give you some information that you don't need to know." And I'm sitting there going,
that's one of those new improved Secret Service agents that we were talking about.
Yeah,
this only happened a little while ago.
Yeah, to me, and I think Trump wanted to do it, but he can't. If I were to walk into that situation, I'd just say, "Hey, thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for all the welcome wishes and everything. By the way, you're all on notice. Until we investigate you, I would start getting my stuff in order. But if you walk out with a box, it's going to be investigated, checked out, because we've got some rats, and I want to find out who they are."
Hey, before we go any further, I think we should remind everybody to like and share the program. Also, you can email us to say hello at mail@jimandbill.com. And we would appreciate it if you are listening on a streaming site to give us a 5-star. If it's a 5-star rating, give us a 5-star. If it's a 4-star rating, give us a 4-star rating. But give us the highest rating. But do rate us, please, because it actually helps us. I know you're saying, how does it help you? Well, it's kind of technical, but it just helps to promote the program and get the word out. We appreciate that.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. See where the Department of Justice ethics official has been fired by Pam Bondi yesterday? I guess maybe it was Friday. Maybe it happened on Friday, but Bondi fired 20 Department of Justice officials tied to the January 6th and Trump docs probe. She did that on Friday, but she also fired another official, the head of ethics in the Department of Justice. She's cleaning house. They're cleaning house at the Department of State. They're cleaning house at the Justice Department. These are the people who I guess worked to put together these false narratives against Trump. They tried to put Trump in jail, and it took them a while to kind of find out who everybody was, and I guess they have done that now, and they're pulling the plug on these people. They're getting them out of their positions of power and control. And I think there'll be a lot more as the days and weeks progress. Dan Bongino, by the way, is back at work. Yeah, he's back on the job. And another thing that happened yesterday, which I'm scratching my head on this one. President Trump, he's kind of done a 180 on Ukraine. I really got the impression he wanted to end the war. He didn't like what was going on. What he's done is, I guess he's given Russia 50 days to get their act together and sit down and put a peace plan together, or he's going to, A, increase the tariffs, and B, he's promising the Ukraine he's going to supply all these weapons that we supposedly did not have.
Well, here's what I understand. Number one, the tariffs, 100%. Number two, we're talking about the Patriot missiles. Now, there are other nations also promising the Patriot missiles. One nation in particular, and it wasn't mentioned that it was us, because there's only a handful of nations that have 17 or more battalions. Now, a battalion of those missiles is big because they fire multiple missiles, and and it has a big contingent that goes with it. United States is one of them, and I forget who the other one is, but there's one nation that will give 17 battalions. And I'm sure we're up there, too, in that list. They're going to have an arsenal.
When you say battalion, you're saying battalion is people. Mm-hmm. Are you saying that these countries are sending people in to support?
Well, they're sending multiple units. They call it a battalion. You're not getting one launcher or two launchers. They say it's a battalion of launchers, however that means. So it means
it's not.
There's got to be support.
It can't be the personnel. I mean, if it's the personnel, you're really putting us in jeopardy right now because if, let's say, for example, they're Polish, and they send in a battalion of Polish soldiers to arm these Patriot missiles. Well, if Russia fires back on these guys and takes them out, are they not at war with Poland?
Well, any NATO
and
nation,
if they're at war at Poland, doesn't that draw all of NATO into the war? And if it draws all of NATO into the war, doesn't it draw us into the war too? Because we're part of NATO.
Well, I'm looking up to see if they have the answer for what is a Patriot battalion, because
while you're doing that, I'm going to play what Trump said in a press conference yesterday.
Mr. President, are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Yeah, defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
My problem with this is I think, and I don't want to sound like a wet blanket, but I think Russia has already won this war. I think that they've got the Donbass region and some other territories under their control. Those are the territories they wanted. And I think that I don't know why this is continuing. It's almost, I would love nothing more than for these countries to sit down, come to some kind of an agreement, shake hands, and end this thing, and have them end with their own separate countries, Ukraine and Russia, right? But this is going in one direction right now, as far as I'm concerned, and I think Putin knows this. I think Putin, the reason why he hasn't sat down is because he is on the verge of winning the war. And
what I was going to say, I'm going to clarify here, because they said battalions, but you know what they're really talking about, I think, are batteries.
Well, a battery is a different thing. A battery is that's the actual
because
launcher.
a battery, so we've got 50 batteries apparently in the United States. So let's say we give them 10. That's going to give them a massive amount of missiles, and if somebody else gives them another 17, then that could be pretty hefty. But I agree with you. I think Russia has won the war. What the hell's going on, and what is there? There's something more to the story than meets the eye.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very uncomfortable few weeks. Russia, I don't know whether Russia has any. It hasn't got a motivation to end this thing right now. It looks around on the battlefield and says, "I think we're winning. I think we're getting control of this situation. Why should we stop now? Just because Trump wants us to sit down, is that good enough of a reason? We can slap Kyiv at our leisure with our missiles. We hit them every night. They haven't got, supposedly the missiles that we're giving them are defensive missiles that'll knock the Russian missiles out of the sky.
But it won't handle the drones. And that's
exactly right, Bill. That's exactly right. It does not handle drones. And as good as the Patriot missiles are, and they are good, they don't take all of the missiles out. They will miss one or two. They still get missiles that go. We saw it in Israel. They would fire up their Patriot missiles. They'd take one out, maybe take another out, but the third would sneak by.
What I'm wondering is, I'd have to look at the history, but how old is the system, the Patriot system? Because apparently really, it is not as effective as you would want in today's warfare.
When they first came out, they were touted as being the end all. They were the
At
were
that
the
time,
best.
they probably were.
I want to say that they came out. Did they come out during the Iraq War? Possibly we gave them to Israel. I'm not sure, but when we first gave them out, we said they're fantastic. They do a great job, but when all was said and done, they actually missed a lot of them. That was when they first came out. They've done a lot of improvements on them since, and fine-tuned them. And apparently
Right.
they're a lot more accurate, but I don't know whether they're 100%. They're not the answer. And what you just said, Bill, is very true. They're ineffective when it comes to drones.
So maybe it's a symbolic thing. You know what? We're not going to be using these much longer. Sure, we'll get rid of them. And because I know we're putting a lot of money into drones right now and some other form of defense that I read about that is pretty devastating, that is really high tech that's out there. And so I'm sitting there going, we might just be emptying our shelf of something that we're not going to be using a lot longer. And it sounds big and mighty and bold, but it may not be as big and mighty and bold as it sounds, because we've heard Patriot missiles for 30 years, maybe a little longer.
The thing about drones,
50 years actually.
They actually can swarm a battlefield like hornets or bees. You know, I mean, they can just put hundreds of these things up there, and how do you fight against those? You can't.
There was a startup company a couple of years ago, and they have some kind of, I'll just say, laser system. I don't know really what it is, but it's a tracking system that can track as many multiple targets that are out there at a single second and hit them all. That could take down a swarm of drones. So us getting into the drone business and also having that defense gives you a one-up. And so I could see where we might just say, yeah, get rid of those things. But I don't think Russia will be scared of it, because if they got drones, that's not going to help. It could hit targets, but they're defensive missiles.
You know what worries me? I've seen this on television. The advisors to the president, a lot of these retired generals, a lot of guys who I find to be smart guys, but
Aren't
they're
so smart.
But they're generals, okay? They're retired generals. Their job was to plan on fighting. And it's like their answer to any military situation is with more fighting. And I see all these experts on Fox and on Newsmax come out, and they talk about, well, the way that we have to do this is we have to answer, Putin's aggression with a strong defense. And, no, maybe that's the wrong approach. Initially Trump was a pacifist. He was like the only pacifist in the room. What I worry about is that he's surrounded on a daily basis by a bunch of advisors who are giving him a more militaristic solution to the problem. Well, Mr. President, your pacifistic idea is a good idea, but really, to be truly effective, the only way to answer this problem is with a strong military presence via drones or missiles. I'm afraid he's hearing this over and over again, and after a while, he's starting maybe to believe this. And I hope that it doesn't change President Trump's attitude towards war. He has been a strong pacifist. If you look at how he's been he prides himself in putting deals together that stop wars. The Pakistan-India situation. He did one in Africa last week. They had the two warring nations were in the Oval Office shaking hands. A war that had, they said, been going on for 30 years. And Trump was proud of that. Mm-hmm. I think his biggest feather in his cap would be to end the Ukraine war. But it seems to me like he's kind of giving up. It's almost like he is an alpha male. He doesn't like to lose. And maybe he figures the only way he's going to win this thing is with more war. And
well, you made a good point. He's an alpha male, and if you want to win, at some point in time, you got to ratchet it up, because if peace negotiations don't work, maybe you do that. Just a thing on the Patriot missile. I went back and looked. They were developed in the late 70s. They came out in 84. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's old, outdated hardware. Somebody might defend that statement and say, "Oh, you're wrong, Bill," but I'm looking at that for what they've done and what they're capable of doing.
Well,
we're not really giving anything away.
I look at it like airplanes. Okay, they made 747s in 1969, but the 747 from 1969 versus the one that rolls off the line now, totally different airplanes.
Yeah.
They have they resemble kinda the 747, the same basic height. They're a little more elongated right now, but if you go in the cockpit of a brand new 747,
everything's changed.
All high tech. It's all computers. It's a different ball game. I got to think that the missile systems, Bill, are the same way. The missile that came out when they first developed the thing is probably a lot more primitive than the ones that are being sent around the world now.
There's no, but they're what they do. I think there's better weapons, and I think that's what because even when I read that we got 50 of them, or the whatever it was called, the battle groups, battalions. Batteries. Yeah, the batteries. We got 50 of them. That's really not a lot, and it means that we've kind of, whatever.
So my question is, where does this whole thing go? I mean, do you see an end in sight? I don't. If Trump is sending all this equipment, by the way, he prided himself in saying, "We're not giving this equipment to Ukraine. We're selling it to NATO." And the NATO countries will then give these weapons to the Ukraine. That's great, but I think the semantics. It's like, who cares? Who cares who sells what to who? If the weapons are going to end up in the Ukraine and they come from the United States, if I were Putin, I'd say, I don't care how you do the deal. If those weapons are getting into our enemy's hands, they're coming from you, America, not from NATO. It's almost like Trump was trying to say, well, we're really not doing it. NATO will be sending it, and we're getting paid for it. It's a business deal. No, it's a military deal, and I think that's the way Putin will look at it.
Probably. I just don't know that they're going to be effective for what they're supposedly going to do. And the second thing is, I see signs that we don't want to be a part of NATO anymore, Our junk.
Bill, you're right. But then he had he had Ruda in his office yesterday. He had the head of NATO in his office, and they were laughing it up, and he was talking about how great NATO is. Trump was. So I don't know. Mixed signals.
There are mixed signals, but Trump plays. He dances a lot. He does. Yeah. So. Just when you think you got him figured, you don't, and just when you think you know what he's going to do, you don't.
Yeah,
and that's how he plays the game. So, you want to keep you keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
John Solomon said we played the cut yesterday. John Solomon, the reporter, said that there was going to be big stuff coming out of Washington this week, maybe 10 days, but it's going to be earth-shattering, and it's going to really get the MAGA movement excited. Well, if it was the announcement he made yesterday about tariffs against Russia...
Oh, I don't think that's it.
That ain't it. That ain't it, Bill. It can't be. If he thinks that's going to be earth-shattering, that doesn't cut it.
No, I get the feeling that there's might be something big in the horizon. It might have to do with the Epstein thing. I don't know, but I think that there's a hammer that's going to fall with some stuff that is going to shock people. I could be wrong, but if I'm reading the tea leaves, something could drop. It could have dropped yesterday, could be dropping today, may have dropped, and it just hasn't been filtered out yet. But this could be a big week. I could be wrong.
Gavin Newsom, did you see this guy, he was running
I hear so many things from him.
This clown is running for president. Folks, I don't know how California voted him in as governor. Do not have a clue. I just don't know how it happened. I truly believe he thinks he has a great chance at winning the presidency. This guy, my dog that I don't have, has a better chance of being
your dog Fowler.
Yeah, has a chance of being president. I mean, this guy, but he, as long as he has a can of hair gel, he's all set. He gets out yesterday, and he sits down for an interview, and he defended illegal workers in his state, how necessary they are. Illegal workers. Listen.
Community, all these mixed status families, $8.5 billion in tax collection in California every year from undocs. $8.5 billion that we receive just at the state level of taxes. That was the last Pew estimate. So it's not insignificant. Backbone, I mean, it's half of our agriculture work. You care about farmers and ranchers? If that's what your number one go-to commitment, then you sure as hell should care about their workers. 41% of our construction workers, Texas and California have the highest percentage of their construction workers that would fall into that category. How the hell do we rebuild Altadena and Palisades? We're going to need a peak next year. We estimate about 70,000 workers. Without that workforce, ain't going to happen. You're struggling here. You imagine a peak there. So I think there needs to be a pathway for those folks as we secure the border, and we own that issue.
Do you feel that they're taking American jobs?
Not in Tulare County. Not in Ventura County. I don't know many people that want a job out there in those packing facilities. I don't see many people look like me jumping at those jobs. I just don't. Maybe there's some exceptions. I haven't seen the evidence of that.
This guy's a clown. This guy's unbelievable. You know, I was thinking, they make it sound like without illegals, we won't have an effective agricultural industry. I don't believe that, for one thing. I believe that there are people out there who need work. I mean, look at the Americans who are unemployed and homeless. I mean, who have no job. And by the way, they're not all homeless and want to be homeless. A lot would like to find work, but they just can't. But the other thing is this. I would say to the agricultural industry, you probably have all these workers doing stuff for you because you can't afford to automate the systems. You can't afford to have the equipment that you'd like to have to pick all these strawberries or whatever you have, or tomatoes. What if we say to you, as far as a government program, we're going to actually encourage you to modernize your farms with the latest agricultural automation equipment. Get out there and start automating your systems. Put more tractors in the field. I would think that a lot of farmers would think that's a pretty good idea. I can only afford 1 or 2 tractors now. You're going to give me another 2 or 3 other tractors, and I'm going to be able to automate my farm and make it a more productive, effective business. I'm all for that. There are things that we can do. We're a creative country. Listen, these people weren't always here. These all of a sudden, these vital employees weren't always here. They came across the border, and they got jobs, and all of a sudden, we can't live without them. Well, we have lived without them in the past. Why can't we live without them now?
Well, the narrative is a lie. They were here picking a long time ago, but they were all here legally. And that's one of the things, there is no country on the planet that operates without a border. They might have a thing where they're open, but it's an agreement deal with, neighboring, states that are like them, and it's very well regulated. We have opened the borders willy-nilly, or we did, and what we've done is we've taken American culture, American pride, American everything that's about us, and thrown it by the by, and you used it all to sit there and say, well, we don't want those jobs. And you're right. Maybe some of them should be automated. I'm thinking back when I was a child. I grew up in the San Joaquin Valley. Family had you used to eat the grapes, the California raisins. Well, it was probably my kin that were growing those, or the wine that you drank. And you didn't have the machines to go out and harvest. So a lot of the stuff, even though you had these people come in and they were paid a decent wage at that time, a lot of stuff didn't make it off the vine in time. So automating that would be the better thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they can't come here and work and assimilate. There's other jobs they can do, but
Bill,
they have to come in legally.
If we can leave,
we do need them.
If we can leave $89 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan, $89 billion, just leave it. Can't we as a country turn around to our agricultural industry and say, hey, look, we're going to make you 21st century agriculture. You can't afford it? Don't worry about it. These are programs that will be designed to build you up to make our agricultural industry more profitable, more productive. It's better for our country if we have a good, strong agricultural business.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of opportunity. And for whatever reason, the population, be it white, black, or indigenous, we're not reproducing as well as we have in the past. And so this has been a country of immigration, always has been from the start, always will be. But from the start, there was a procedure that you had to go through, and was fine until just the past few years with Democrats, and then now that's taken hold everywhere. And now you go into a grocery store, okay, what language do I need to speak in here? Because you got 5 or 6 or a half dozen languages going on, and people that don't have any idea what this country is about, and they're bringing their culture in because they came here for all the freebies.
Well,
and they don't want to do anything for those freebies.
You talk about our population being down. Maybe it's because we live in a society where we have tried to confuse genders. Guys don't know their guys. Women don't know their women. All of a sudden, if you feel like a woman, you're a woman, even if you're a guy. I mean, this is the kind of woke crap that the globalists have shoved down our throats, so to speak, figuratively speaking. But I want to say one other thing about wokeness, all right? I want to talk to you about how it works. In the Netherlands, they're rationing electricity as the power grids are overwhelmed, and the kingdom is focused on cutting emissions. They still want to cut emissions, but they are now, as a result of their wokeness, their people are suffering. The people of the country are suffering. They're having brownouts and power outages in the country. That's in the Netherlands. You know, these are countries about the size of Pennsylvania, and they're running into all kinds of problems because they're trying to be politically correct. And then there's other things like up in Sweden, the actual Swedes who were born in Sweden are outnumbered by the number of illegals who are in their country now. And they're losing their Swedish identity because they've allowed the country to be overwhelmed by this wokeness. And they're having the same problem with our friends in England. You know, I think we have listeners in England. I love England. I think England, it's kind of the granddad of democracies, and they've led the way in so many things. All of a sudden, this is a country, they don't know who the hell they are anymore. You know, they're having prayer chants at lunchtime or whatever. The streets of London aren't the streets of London from 30, 40 years ago. And by the way, as long as you have these woke politicians in Parliament, it isn't going to get better. England, if you don't, it's like you're in a car and you're not able to hit the brakes and you're racing toward a cliff. You know the brake's there. You know in order to not go over that cliff, you got to press that brake. But damn it, you can't seem to find that brake, and you're getting closer and closer to the point of no return. And that's what you have to be aware of. I pray that England gets its head together and makes some drastic changes soon, but I don't see it anytime soon. I don't see it on the horizon, unfortunately.
Well, you know, like an addict, sometimes you got to crash and burn before you wake up and realize you got to get your life together, but
they may be
too late.
Yeah, they may never be able to recover from it, Bill. I mean, you're right.
Well, we may not. And I mean, you know, you were touching on different things there, and I was thinking about, you know, energy and fuel and different things like that, you know, things that we've had a problem with. And we know that electrical doesn't work. I was thinking the other day, how great it would be with the hydrogen engine, which has been developed. I think Japan now has a car now that does that. But
Really?
Here's the problem, is that I started thinking about it. Oh, everybody gets the hydrogen engine. So we go to the station and fill up on water. And the byproduct is water.
Yeah.
But it's not all going to go the way that you want it to. And what do they always have a lack of in California?
Water.
Water.
Yeah, right. It's
So
true.
I'm sitting there going, you want renewable energy. We need to put our brains together. And what I do know is back in the 70s when they sat there, remember when we went from regular leaded gas to unleaded gas and everything like that, and they were showing the smog in LA, and the smog in LA kind of went away with the unleaded and all the things. But the one thing is that kind of gas and the pollution from it dissipated in time. The effects of the unleaded gas, although you may not see it, it lingers and lingers and lingers. We've got a population today of young people, like you and I are lucky to, be to our ripe young ages. And we've got a lot, we may not have the amount of miles that are behind us ahead of us, but we still have plenty of tread on the tire. There are young people dying in their late 20s, 30s, or early 40s at best. They're getting things like cancer and everything like that because of the food. Everything that we do is causing something. It's almost like...
Well, look at Robert Kennedy. I mean, he finally took the food dyes out of
Yeah.
And I guess the M&M company, Mars, had some problems with taking it out of the M&Ms. They're not going to do it. They would rather keep the dyes in their M&Ms so that they look as vibrant as ever. I'd be willing to bet you that if you did a poll, Mars, you would probably find out that most people aren't as concerned about the shiny colors that you put on your M&Ms. They're more concerned with the pollutants you might be sticking in the people's bodies.
Yeah. Well, you know what, though? People are like crows, especially in the United States. They like things that sparkle and shine and razzle-dazzle. And that's what these companies know. And they may not eat their own product, but they're going, these stupid suckers will. Don't be a stupid sucker. If you know it's bad for you, don't get it.
Hey, we always hear from the mainstream media and the left, one and the same, actually, but we always hear that we're taking these poor immigrants, these poor families, tearing them apart and dragging them across the border, and it's just a terrible thing that we're doing. That Tom Homan's a bad guy, and everybody every day they're saying that ICE is the Gestapo or the SS or whatever. That's nonsense. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement announced details surrounding the arrest of 1,361 illegal aliens in the Houston area in the month of June. One of them was a guy named Adamus Wilson Gonzalez, a 56-year-old criminal from Cuba arrested by ICE June 29th, who was convicted in 2003 of hijacking an airplane traveling from Cuba to Key West, Florida. So this is a nice guy. He's a hijacker. That's just one. I have a list here of violent criminals that were arrested in this sweep in Houston in the month of June. All I can say, ICE, is keep up the good job. You guys are doing a service to our country. You're not getting the credit from the left. You have, and they're all getting on board. I heard today some local state representative from Rhode Island, from the Providence area, talking about how nasty those fascistic ICE people were, and we don't want them in Providence. I grew up in Providence, or that area. I didn't grow up in Providence per se, but I grew up in Rhode Island, and we were all American back then. And I don't think it's changed all that much, pal. I think you're doing it, you're trying to score points, political points, so people will know your name, And there's a lot of these little sycophants out there, these little dweebs who are trying to, I can get on board this anti-ICE bandwagon, and all of a sudden people will know who I am. Maybe I can be a state senator, Anyway, this is the kind of stuff that Homan and ICE have to deal with every day. Fortunately, their attitude is, to hell with them, we're doing our job, period, end of sentence. We've been charged with doing this. We're doing it. But they have a lot of the people on the left doing stuff. I think if you put a ICE officer in danger, even if you're a congressman, if you, like I heard where there was a congressman who doxed one of the ICE agents at that marijuana farm a few days ago. He got a card from one of the agents, and he took the card and handed it to the guys people who were rioting, the illegals, and I guess they've used it to dox the guy.
Wow.
I mean that congressman should be in handcuffs. I don't care. This is the problem we have in this country. Well, he's a congressman. Horse crap. If he's breaking the law, he's a
criminal.
He's a criminal. He's not a congressman. But we could go on.
He just gave up his political rights. I do believe you. He's a criminal.
Anyway, I'm done, Bill. I have some more stuff here, but we have to pack it up, I think.
Two quick things I'll mention. Air India Flight 171, they came out with that one of the crew members in the cabin was going through some mental issues, was seeking psychiatric help, was the person that flipped the switches. That kind of makes you wonder about the condition of any pilot or co-pilot getting in.
Well, how can you let these guys, if they've gone to have, psychiatric help?
Oh, it's been going on for months, and you let them on plane?
Yeah.
There has to be a certification and a checkout, and there probably needs to be when you get on a plane, because this is going to hurt the industry. It's going to hurt that airline company, too, that they allowed it, but it's going to hurt the industry because now I'm going like, maybe the pilot's okay, but maybe the co-pilot isn't, or vice versa. How you doing, Jim? You okay, really?
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
If anybody from Boeing or Airbus is listening to this program, I think there's a solution to this problem, and you guys could probably figure this out. It just came to me. But in the missile silos, it takes both guys with keys to fire a missile. If you're going to shut the fuel off to an airplane, why is it that one guy can do it by himself? Why don't you have to have both the pilot and the co-pilot agree to turning the fuel off to the engines? I mean, it would probably be as simple as a key.
Yeah. Well, those switches are spring-loaded, so you have to manipulate them physically. I mean, I guess could see
one guy can do it, Bill.
Yeah, one guy can do it. Now, what happens in a silo if, we got to fire a missile and boom, you have a heart attack and your partner dies? How do you get...
But they figured that. I mean, that's the way it's been for years. They've always had two guys, two separate keys. They twist it at the same time, and that's how they get the system to ready, to arm the system. I'm just saying there's got to be a solution that requires the effort of both of the pilot and the co-pilot. It can't be as simple as throwing switches by one guy and taking down a plane with 250 people on board.
Take it out of their hands to where, because basically you cut the engines. In an emergency, that could be something that's detected where it cuts an engine. And if it's way up high, you got a glide ratio. If it's when you're coming down, you cut the engine after you've landed, you've got the brakes on, the reverse thrusters have gone, you kill the fuel because it runs out, and that's the safety thing. Maybe when those wheels hit the ground, it hits a switch that goes, okay, time for fuel cutoff, and it's not going to hurt anybody. I don't know. You're right. There's got to be another way that takes it out of, that situation to where it's a dual decision or something.
Or maybe it's a decision that has to be made with a pilot in the plane and a person on the ground.
Yeah, they hit the relay switch.
Yeah. Maybe the others. There's so many ways of fixing this problem other than Bill. It reminded me of what happened. Do you remember that? Was it Air Germania, where the plane? It was a subsidiary airlines from Lufthansa, and one of the pilots had a mental problem. And, I guess it was the co-pilot, and the pilot said, I had to go to the men's room, and the co-pilot said, no problem, I'll take care of it. The pilot went to the men's room. The co-pilot locked the door to the cabin, and he flew the plane into a mountain, killed everybody on board. And my thought was, the pilot couldn't get back into the cabin. You would think that the pilot would have, even when he's outside of the cabin, would have a means to get into the cabin, no matter what.
Yeah. You would think so, but that's not so. There's a lot of problems with air travel, and I say that only because we live in a time that there are more crazy people than there are sane people, and I just say that, and I'll leave that statement as that. You can chew it any way you want to. The other thing is we've talked about weird weather, and maybe weather's manipulated. I don't know. Texas getting hit again, but came out yesterday. The National Weather Service said, a hurricane warning at risk this week. Apparently, they put out the warning for a hurricane in Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. They did that yesterday afternoon. They said in the next few days, get ready for some bad weather. It seems funny, red states, but
Man, those Chevets, unbelievable. It just never ends, does it?
No, it doesn't, but our show does.
Yes. I could go on and on. I had other things I wanted to talk about, but they can wait till tomorrow. Folks, have a great day. Keep your eyes on the news. Lots of stuff, hopefully good stuff coming down the road. Pray for our country. Pray for our president. And remember, they're talking about July 17th of having 400-plus demonstrations against our government in major cities. That bothers me a lot.
Well, Jim, that's 2 days from now.
I know. We got to keep our eyes on what's going on down there around the. This could be the beginning of a bigger problem, Bill. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh, I think it is. It's going to be the summer of protest, and this means they're planned, organized, and orchestrated by whom? Well, the Democratic Party. They're the ones that are announcing it, so they're calling their play, and their play is to wreak mayhem and havoc on us. And even they got their sycophant followers out there now saying, any MAGA or Republican person that identifies himself or they know is Republican, to punch him. And I'm like going,
unbelievable.
Somebody hauls off on me. They better make sure that they do it by surprise and get their best in, because you haul off on me or anybody in my party, it's not going to be a pleasant day for you.
You might turn around to them and say,
"Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here." And so are you.
The right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. This is CRN America.